Hi, everyone. I'm Steve Ropski, and I'm a licensed preacher at St. Stephen's Episcopal Church in Fairview, and I'm very happy to be with you today. So, in our readings today, we have two very visual images of important events in the Bible. The first one, of course, is the Moses coming down from the mountain and bringing the Ten Commandments down. And I don't know about you, but for me, what immediately comes to mind for me is watching the Ten Commandments with Charlton Heston on whatever, Easter Sunday night or Palm Sunday night. That was a tradition for us every year. And of course, Charlton Heston comes down and his hair is blown back and his face is kind of colored. So that's a very visual one for me. But I want to emphasize more the second visual image we have in our readings today. And that is of Jesus cleansing the temple and clearing it of money changers and folks that were selling and buying things. And we'll emphasize that visual image today instead. So this story occurs in all four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. In John, it occurs at the very beginning or earlier in Jesus' ministry than the other three. So in the case of the other three Gospels, it's at the end of his ministry, and some people think that this might have been on purpose because this maybe was one of the last straws that pushed all the folks that were in charge to say we have to capture Jesus and put him to death on the cross. So that was kind of the last straw on the camel's back. But in John, it's very early on in his ministry. So we've got to think that maybe John was looking at a different reason or had a different reason for doing this. Why do it early on in his ministry? Well, we all have important events in our life that elicit strong images or strong emotions, right? It could be sadness, anger, passion, doubt. This past year, we've all had something emotion-wise like that we probably relate to what's gone on with COVID in our lives. So no doubt this temple cleansing was a strong emotional event for Jesus. You could maybe say anger, but at least strong a passion event. So what pushed him over the edge? Because it was common practice in those days to sell things at the temple. You have people coming for Passover, and you have people that wanted to buy animals for sacrifice for the Passover, and they were coming from out of town. And these out-of-towners had to exchange their money to then be able to buy what they needed for Passover. So what pushed Jesus over the edge this time? Well, I think we can say that we all have events like this that elicit these kind of strong emotions. And these strong events show us what we're all about, don't they? What's important in our lives, what we value, what we think we stand for. A book comes to mind that my wife Melanie has up on her dresser, a fairly recent book by an author. And the title is, What on Earth Am I Here For? By Rick Warren. So maybe that's the question, right? What on earth are you here for? Well, things that come to mind for me are to do good, set an example for others, share my talents. Don't waste the God-given talents that I have. But maybe isn't one of the most important things we have to do on earth is to try and get closer to God through Jesus, whether it's physically, spiritually, all those things. So I think that's what John was after. John had this early on in the ministry because he wanted folks to see that this commercial stuff in the temple was preventing people from physically and spiritually getting closer to God. I think of what happens at Christmas time, right? All the commercial stuff and how we're all worried about this and that and buying this and how that might distract us from the true meaning and what we want to get out of Christmas, or maybe even Easter too, with the Easter holiday coming. All the commercial stuff that's involved and how that prevents us from physically and spiritually getting closer to God. So Jesus' solution, literally flip those tables, knock things over, and get people's attention. So here's my challenge to you as we still have a few more weeks to go in Easter, or in Lent, before Easter, and the wonderful Holy Week ceremonies that are taking place and all the wonderful resurrection celebration on Easter Sunday. So here's my challenge. Do some flipping of your own. Of course, not figuratively, don't flip tables, but do some flipping of your own. Things like maybe flip the TV off for one night. And maybe call someone who needs to hear from you, right? Who's been isolated due to COVID. Maybe you could flip open your purse or your wallet and help out a nonprofit or a charity that's been struggling because of COVID. Maybe it's just as simple as going back to the old days, in the old days of flip phones, and realizing that someone has been so isolated during this time of COVID that just a call from them would mean the world for them. So that's my challenge. Do some flipping of tables. You still have a couple more weeks before Easter happens. God bless everyone. Have a wonderful Easter.